You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Speaking of craziness, William Barr testified today on Capitol Hill. All right, folks, Barr faced the House Judiciary Committee for the first time. The hearing covered a range of topics involving the Department of Justice, the federal response to protests in D.C., important election integrity, vote by mail, Roger Stone. Barr began this thing by saying this.
On behalf of the Department of Justice, I want to pay my respects to your colleague, Congressman John Lewis, an indomitable champion of civil rights and the rule of law. I think it is especially important to remember today that he pursued his cause passionately and successfully with unwavering commitment to nonviolence. As I said in my confirmation hearing, the Attorney General has a unique obligation. He holds in trust the fair and impartial administration of justice. He must ensure that there is one standard of justice that applies to everyone equally, and that criminal cases are handled even-handedly based on the law and the facts and without regard to political or personal considerations. And I can tell you that I've handled criminal matters that have come to me for decision in this way. The President has not attempted to interfere in these decisions. On the contrary, he has told me from the start that he expects me to exercise my independent judgment to make whatever call I think is right, and that is precisely what I've done.
Now, that did not sit well with Congressman Cedric Richmond of Louisiana.
Attorney General Barr, you started your testimony with eloquent words about the life and legacy of John Lewis, fighting systematic racism, voter intimidation, civil rights. The one thing that you have in common with your two predecessors, both Attorney General Sessions and Attorney General Whitaker, is that when you all came here and brought your top staff, you brought no black people. That, sir, is systematic racism. That is exactly what John Lewis spent his life fighting. And so I would just suggest that actions speak louder than words, and you really should keep the name of the Honorable John Lewis out of the Department of Justice's mouth. Let me also say, you mentioned bogus Russiagate. In your opinion, as the Attorney General of the United States of America, did Russia interfere or attempt to interfere in the 2016 election?
Yes.
In your position as the Attorney General of the United States, is Russia attempting to interfere in the 2020 presidential election?
I think we have to assume that they are.
Thank you, sir. Now, let's talk about the integrity of the election, which is also something Congressman Lewis fought for. Jared Kushner implied that the president could move the election day. Can a sitting U.S. president move an election day?
Actually, I haven't looked into that question under the Constitution.
Well, 2 U.S. Code Section 7 says federal election day is the Tuesday after the first Monday in November. So if you take that as a correct statute, is there any executive action by a president?
I've never been asked the question before. I've never looked into it.
As Attorney General of the United States, do you believe that this 2020 presidential election will be rigged?
I have no reason to think it will be.
President Trump tweeted that the election will be rigged, but he also tweeted that when he was losing to Hillary Clinton, and he tweeted that the day after it was Fox showed that he was losing to Trump. But I don't want to be too political. Do you believe, as the Attorney General of the United States, that mail-in voting will lead to massive voter fraud?
I think there's a high risk that it will.
Do you ever vote by mail-in ballot?
Apparently I did once at least.
But you believe that other people voting by mail could lead to massive fraud?
No, what I've talked about, made very clear, is that I'm not talking about accommodations to people who have to be out of the state or have some particular need not to, inability to go and vote. What I'm talking about is the wholesale conversion of election to mail-in voting.
You do understand that African Americans disproportionately do not survive COVID-19 coronavirus. You are aware of that.
I didn't hear the question.
You are aware that African Americans, black people, disproportionately die from COVID-19 coronavirus, correct?
Yes, I think that's right.
And not that it would be the first time that African Americans would risk their lives to vote in this country to preserve its democracy. But the suggestion is that them having the ability to vote by mail would somehow lead to massive voter fraud. But I won't stick to that.
No, I didn't say that. I just state, I think, what is a reality, which is that if you have wholesale mail-in voting, it substantially increases the risk of fraud.
But it doesn't make it likely.
That's all I said.
See, this is the complete bullshit, Michael, that these folks love to lay out. What Barr's doing is what Trump is doing. They are lying. They are liars. Trump is voted by mail. Barr is voted by mail. Kelly, what's her name? McEnany voted by. All the people are voted by mail.
You know, what's interesting is as a legislator, and as you know, Roland, I was a legislator for a little while, and it's so hard. You have your list of questions. I love Cedric Richmond, good friend, and you have your list of questions, and you want to get through them, and you're in those 5 minutes, and that 5 minutes goes very quickly. But you also have to listen to the answer of the person in the hot seat. And so when he starts talking about that, the natural question should be, what is your evidence of voter fraud? He doesn't have any. And he'd have to say, I don't have any, because there isn't any. Even the defunct voter fraud commission that 45 put in place couldn't make anything stick. So they collapsed. So listen to your witness. And Cedric did a good job. I mean, he laid it out from the John Lewis, keep his name out of your mouth. And I thought that was fabulous. But you got to listen so you can ask that follow-up question that puts them in that box being, what's your evidence?
Amendment.
You're absolutely right. Kelly, look, first of all, you have these hearings. You're going to have craziness from both sides, people interrupting, whatever. But to me, versus trying to get there, you nail them down. In fact, in a moment, I'm going to play Jayapal, Congresswoman Jayapal, she asked to be admitted into the record that spells out how much of a joke this voter fraud deal is. But your thoughts on today's hearing?
I just think that when it comes to hearings, I feel like everybody knows what the answers are going to be. They just want it on the congressional record so that, 5, 10, 50 years from now, we can look back on it and see how stupid William Barr sounded under oath, no less. It is no question that voting by mail is not fraudulent. There's no risk of increased fraud by voting by mail. There have been several states for years that have always been voting by mail, specifically in the West. This is dumb. This is absolutely dumb, and Barr included. It's just frustrating to me how propaganda and gaslighting has just infiltrated itself into our political culture and our standing in the world, to the point where we have to have hearings like this to dispel it all. But it is clear that Barr is lying. It is clear that he's a crony for the Trump administration. And we just need to do everything in our power as citizens to vote them out come November.
Yes, I do.
Well, one of the things, Mustafa, as I looked at this whole hearing again, Barr's like, oh, no, I'm not sitting here. I go by the rule of law, things along those lines. When he was jammed up when it came to Portland protesters, oh, no, we're protecting federal property. No, bottom line is you got a thug president who's thug in chief, and he's got a thug attorney general.
Yeah, the protests in Portland had shrunk considerably before they decided to push these federal troops, these federal law enforcement folks into this space so that they could fan the flames. And, we know what this is all about. This is about them having the pictures and the video that's necessary to go into the political campaigns so that they think that they can then stand a chance. It has been about race, race, race for years now since he first came in. He came down the escalator talking about race, and he's actually going to have race that is going to actually take him back up that escalator when folks vote in November.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Black-owned company Ceek, they have, of course, a couple of products that are really popping. That is, they have their virtual reality headset right here, which you can also get. You can just pop your phone in and check out, of course, VR videos. You can do that. Also, when you go to Ceek.com, you can watch their VR video. They have, of course, they're also their headsets, 360-degree headphones, 4D. Gamers love these. Also, Bluetooth. Amazing bass and sound to these headphones. If you want to get these, go to Ceek.com, Ceek.com. Use the promo code RMVIP2020. Ceek.com, Ceek.com. The promo code is RMVIP2020.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have, you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it. Please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.